All right, what's going on, guys? It's Fast Cars, Fast Money. We're back. It is Las Vegas weekend, and the trucks are going to be racing this time. They took last weekend off, so we get three slates to break down for you this weekend, whether it's the Truck Series, Xfinity Series, or the Cup Series. Thank you guys for checking out our content. If you're new here, feel free to subscribe to the channel. It really helps us grow, and you can also get notified once we're posting new videos. Like the video if you're enjoying what we're doing. Drop us any questions you have down below if you're debating about, maybe some different drivers to pick between. And then also, if you guys want access to the spreadsheet we're going to go over here shortly, hop over on Twitter. It's at FastCarsFM. You guys can pull this up when you guys are making lineups, and you can ask us questions over there too, whatever is easier for you. But myself, Rich, and Coop, we're going to be talking about the trucks currently. I think the first thing we all have to talk about is kind of the elephant in the room. This happens about 5 times out of the year that Kyle Busch himself comes down and races in the Truck Series. So I think the first question you have to ask yourself when you're evaluating this slate is, am I playing Kyle Busch? And depending on what you're doing with Kyle Busch, your lineup is going to look, one of two ways. So we'll get to that. The other thing that is interesting about this race is I think I'm up to 10, maybe even 11 trucks are going to be sponsored by Camping World for this race. So you're going to see a lot of blue and yellow, white trucks out on the track. And it's a pretty cool incentive that is in place. Marcus Lemonis basically gave all these unsponsored teams $15,000 to slap, Camping World on there. And he said, if you finish in the top 10, you're going to get 25 grand. If you finish in the top 5, you get 35 grand. And if a Camping World truck wins the race, you get 50 grand. So that has me intrigued with some of these more backmarker teams that normally don't really have anything to race for. They're usually just trying to save their equipment. But with this incentive in place, it actually gives them something to race for. So some of those guys potentially might be interesting. We'll get to that as well. And if you're playing Kyle Busch, he's super expensive. You're going to have to find value elsewhere. I mean, I think he's like 15 grand on this slate. So if you're playing him, you're going to have to be playing a lot of the 6K and 7K gate or 7K guys to make up for that. And then also the grid's still set by this qualifying formula. So you're going to have drivers kind of spread out all over the place. But do either of you guys have any other additional comments about the truck slate here?
Yep. It comes down to if you're playing Kyle Busch or not. That's about it.
Yeah. All right, Coop, we'll start with you. What's your thoughts here on Mr. KFB himself?
Yeah, love him. But he's expensive. So he's $4 grand more expensive than the next driver down in the slate. And you have to decide whether you're going to plug him in right off the bat. If you don't, Austin Hill, Zane Smith, and Kligerman are all great plays. They all have potential difference. PD upside. Out of those 3, I think Zane's my favorite. And then if you drop down to the 2 below that, Sheldon Creed and Nemechek, those I think will be the dominators until somebody like Kyle Busch or Austin Hill or Zane Smith get up there and can push for laps led. So you have to really kind of take a guess at what you think Kyle's going to do. And if you think he gets up there early, you think he leads a ton of laps, and you think he takes away some of that that leader upside that Creed and Nemechek have, maybe you don't play them at all if you play Kyle Busch. And again, I think Austin Hill and Zane Smith and Kligerman all are going to score you points. Unless they wreck, they're going to move up. So there's a lot of different routes you can go. And I think depending on whether or not you play Kyle Busch at the top, it's going to determine how you play the rest of the slate.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, it's Kyle Busch. We all know how good he is in the Truck Series. He wins like just about every other race he's in there. So, but with NASCAR not having practice right now, he has been struggling in the first 2 stages of any race. It was the same as last year when he was in the Truck Series. He was not able to dominate until the 3rd stage, and even then, his truck might not have been good enough. So, with not having practice, I'm looking at fading Kyle Busch just based on the ownership play. And then the next three guys, Hill, Smith, Kligerman. I like Hill and Smith more than I like Kligerman just because they have the dominator upside of fast laps and laps led. And then Sheldon Creed would probably be the early dominator I would go with.
Yeah, it's tough. I mean, obviously Kyle Busch is going to get you a lot of points. He has, PD upsides starting where he is. He's going to be really fast. He can probably lead laps and have fast laps. But like Rich mentioned, there's no practice or qualifying, so it's not guaranteed. It might take him maybe until halfway through stage 2, maybe even stage 3, until he finally gets his truck dialed in. But even then, I mean, I think if you look at last year, the races that Kyle Busch was in, he was pretty much in the optimal lineup, I think, for 4 out of the 5 races that he was in last year. So I think Kyle Busch can probably outscore, maybe a little bit more of a balanced lineup just because of the PD upside and the dominating up potential, that he has. But I'm probably going to build 2 lines, probably 1 line with Kyle Busch and 1 line without it. But if I had to pick one, I think I was actually surprised. I thought Kyle Busch would be even more expensive. So I'm still interested in playing Kyle, and that's probably where I'm going to start with my lineups personally. And then also just for reference, anyone that has an asterisk next to them, those are guys that I have confirmed that are running the Camping World paint scheme and are eligible for the incentive. So looking at the 9K range, I think Sheldon Creed is probably the favorite to win the Camping World incentive if he wins. I think it's basically him versus Kyle Busch at that point. But if you're looking for a guy that can potentially lead the race early, I'd probably go with Sheldon Creed. You just have to ask yourself, okay, how many laps is he going to lead before maybe Austin Hill or Zane Smith or even Kyle Busch gets up there and potentially takes the lead away from him. So it's really how dominant can he be early in the race. But if you don't think Sheldon Creed can lead early, I think John Hunter Nemechek is in the same equipment as Kyle Busch. So he's going to be an experienced driver. He's going to have a good shot to lead laps as well, and he'll probably go lower owned than Sheldon Creed. So that's kind of a contrarian play there. Brett Moffitt, I think, is a little bit too expensive for me. And then I just don't want anything to do with Ben Rhodes starting on the pole with the stacked field that we have.
Yeah, I agree. Once you get past Nemechek, I think Nemechek, like you mentioned, is a really good contrarian play. I think he's going to come in low owned. I think a lot of other people are going to gravitate towards Creed. So if you're looking for a GPP play, I think, and you don't think Kyle Busch can get up there and some of the other guys starting in the back can lead laps, and you want to take, a bet on John Hunter Nemechek, I think he's going to come in really low owned, and it could really pay off big for you. But not someone that I'm expecting by any means to do that. And then after that, you mentioned Moffitt. From Moffitt down for a stretch, I have a lot more interest in the guys that are more expensive, and I see it, especially if you're playing Kyle Busch, being pretty hard to fit a lot of these guys in there. I think on any other given day, they might be all right. But with Kyle Busch being at the top and being so expensive and being such a good truck driver, I think there's a large gap here in the 8K range where it's just so hard to fit these guys in.
Yeah, I agree with that, Jason. Like, if you plug in Kyle Busch, it's very tough to find yourself back in this range because you're going to want to play another one of those top price drivers. And there's just not enough good value to get you back up into this range unless you are actively trying to fit these guys in there. And in this range, there's nobody in here I think is a great play.
Yeah, it's tough. I mean, I think you both brought up a really good point. It's like, okay, Kyle Busch is a really good play, but hey, so is Austin Hill, and hey, so is Zane Smith, and hey, so is Parker Kligerman. And as soon as you click on 2 of those guys, if you look at how much salary you have left on the table, like your average salary probably of left to spend is probably in the 5K or 6K range. And a lot of these guys are going to get skipped over, whether you're playing Kyle Busch or not, just because of how solid those plays are in the really expensive range. So I think regardless if you're playing Kyle Busch or not, it'd be interesting. I think a lot of these guys are going to be low owned, and some of them, have some good upside, but it's tough with where some of these guys are starting. Like Grant Enfinger, one thing to note is he's in the 9 truck, which is usually what Cody Rohrabaugh drives. So he's not in his normal 98 car or 98 truck. He's running a part-time schedule, and he's priced up almost like he's still in the 98. So I'm not really interested there. Matt Crafton, he starts 4th. There's too many guys that are. I just think Sheldon Creed or John Hunter Nemechek can lead the race before Crafton could. Friesen's okay, but I don't really see him moving up too much higher than where he starts. Tyler Ankrum's kind of in the same boat. I mean, he kind of starts around where he's going to finish. He doesn't just give you that upside that the more expensive guys do. And kind of same thing with Johnny Sotter. I mean, I think Johnny Sotter is pretty much the same play as Stuart Friesen. He's just a little bit cheaper. But I just, like Coop said, I'm really struggling to just find myself landing on all these guys. So if you're looking to be different, if you can, I wouldn't go out of your way to get some of these guys, but I think a lot of them are going to be pretty low owned. But what about the 7K range? Because I think finally we might be getting down in the range where some, depending on your line, you might be hitting some of these guys.
Yeah, for this range, like Conor Daly, I would be looking at him if he was a few $100s cheaper. But if you're building and you land on him, he's still a solid play. He's a former IndyCar driver. He's in I think that's a Nice Motorsports truck. Should move up. Probably, he definitely has a chance to wreck because he's only had 5 or 6 races in the truck series. So not a ton of experience in a truck, but he still has a bunch of PD upside. Eckes and Gillin, they're starting kind of high. I don't really see either one of those guys getting ahead of John Hunter Nemechek or name went right out of my head.
Sheldon
Creed, thank you. Or Sheldon Creed. So, and going farther down here, Tanner Gray, he was, top 10 truck in this race last year. I think he's going to probably be one of the higher owned value plays just based on his price and where his starting position is.
Yeah. Like we said, there's there's almost like a big cliff that hits that 8K range. And then you get down into the 7K range, and I feel similar interest to these guys. And then once you get to Gray, where he's starting 22nd, there's a guy that's a decent driver, that can move up a couple spots. Moving down, I feel similar about Anderson, starting 28th. He could move up. He's got good potential there. And then Deegan. Again, I think she's only going to get better as the season goes on. For that price, starting 30th, I'm very interested.
Yeah, I think you brought up a lot of really good points there. I mean, if I look at the 7K range real quickly, I think Tanner Gray is going to be a popular option if you look at his finishes last year, but also just his price. I mean, where he starts, he definitely gives you some upside. He's in the DGR equipment, the same equipment that David Gillin and Haley Deegan are in. And I like all of those guys. I think all the DGR drivers are pretty solid. Looking at the 6K range, I think by far my favorite play is probably Haley Deegan. She starts furthest back. I think she's in solid equipment. She's usually pretty good about keeping the truck clean and just, being there at the end and slowly moving her way up as the day goes along. David Gilliland's another one I'm really interested in. And then, all these other guys, they're okay. I'm not really interested in anyone that has the low interest, like Chase Purdy. He's in GMS equipment. I just haven't seen the results out of him yet. Not really trying to get to Spencer Boyd or Corey Roper. I think there's some other better value plays that you're a little bit cheaper and give you a little bit more salary relief. But what about you, Rich? You like any of these guys in the 6K range? Because I know you're going to have to be plugging them in if you're playing Kyle Busch or if you're just trying to get to Austin Hill and Zane Smith.
Yeah, I think everybody in this range, if they're medium and above, are playable. It just which ones you like best. Haley Deegan is probably going to be the highest owned down here just because of the equipment she's in, and she's actually done pretty decently so far in the truck series, so she should move up. I like Jordan Anderson. He didn't run great here last year, but he's in a good truck, and, he should be able to move up, solid 10, 12 spots. I am a personal fan of Derek Kraus, although he wasn't great here last year. I think he can, hang around the top 15 most of the race and be able to get a top 10 finish at the end, which would pay off his price tag. And then I agree with you, Andrew. David Gillin is probably high on my list as well.
Yeah, and you're gonna have to get to these guys if if you're plugging in those top ones. So if you're playing multiple lineups, I'd probably just stick with your heavy guys, your heavy hitters up top, and then maybe pivot with some of the cheaper 6K and 5K, or even maybe the 4K range. Although I don't think I want to go that low in my lines. But looking real quickly here at the value, the punt plays, I would say two of them kind of stand out to me. I would say Brett Holmes and Tyler Hill. Brett Holmes is ARCA driver, so the series below the truck series. He's been doing really, really well in that series, and he's really excited about kind of making his truck start here. So, and he starts DFL, he starts last, so he can only go forward, and with a bunch of unsponsored trucks having this incentive in place, I think this race could get a little bit more chaotic than it normally is. And if he can just keep his truck clean, I mean, that's just easy PD points that he's clicking off. And I think his equipment's going to be halfway decent. And then the other guy I really like is Tyler Hill. We've seen the Hill brothers they're so good at it. I mean, they can just keep their trucks out of trouble. They're always there at the end. They're always getting solid finishes. I think Timmy Hill's probably a little bit of a better driver than Tyler, but still, we've seen it's a good truck, and both the Hill brothers know how to keep it clean and be there in the end. But what about you, Coop? Who do you like down here in this range, if anybody?
Yeah, you mentioned Brett Holmes. There's no downside, right? He can only move forward. So I think he's a fine play. I like Tyler Hill as well. And I don't even have that. I know we're not that confident in Spencer Boyd's equipment, but he starts 33rd, not too much downside there. And then, again, I said you have to almost play around with your lines a little bit and see how many of those top guys you can fit, and how comfortable you are, and the number of guys down here that you want to play. BJ McLeod starts 38th, not much downside. Say he moves up, 10 spots, and then you have Kyle Busch and somebody else up in that top line. You don't need much from him if Kyle gets up early and just leads a ton of laps and then wins the race. Same if you got to go all the way down to the bottom three there. I think you're stretching it. But again, if that's how you fit in some of those top plays, and all of those top plays really, really pay off, you don't need much from these racers in the back. So it's really how you think the race is going to go. And it all starts with Kyle Busch. We keep going back to it, but it really is, it's going to be it's going to take a couple iterations of lines and playing around with it a little bit this week, maybe more so than other weeks, and really just trying to figure out what you expect from the top drivers up here and how comfortable you are with the lower drivers and how many you're willing to fit in to get some of these top plays.
Yep, I agree. Everything comes down to playing Kyle Busch or not playing Kyle Busch.
Yeah, and I am going to be on the side of playing Kyle Busch, but we will see. I think he'll probably be the highest owned driver. Maybe. I mean, maybe some of the other plays like Tanner Gray or Haley Deegan, where regardless if you're playing Kyle, they're easy to kind of fit in your line. But regardless, I would still build, one line with him and one line without him. But I would I'm probably going to have maybe 75, 80% ownership on Kyle Busch. And then for whatever reason, if he gets like a penalty or blows a tire or, just misses the setup or gets in an accident or something, I don't want to have all my eggs in one basket. So I'll probably, play another line as well, not playing him, but I'm going to be very heavy on Kyle Busch for this race. All right, guys. Well, that's going to be it for the truck series. Thank you for tuning in, and feel free to check out our Xfinity video and our Cup video, which should be posted now as well. Good luck.
Good luck, everyone.
Good luck.